Jozolapa Tashidele, Lasso Fiafula. Namaste everybody. Welcome to our channel Jhigu Economy, the only place where we decode Nepali economy without giving you a severe headache. If you watched our last video, we talked about the classic leather briefcase that the finance minister carries into the parliament on Jeshta 15, looking like they're holding top secret nuclear codes. Well, burn that mental image because Dr. Swarnim Wagle just walked in for fiscal year 2026-2027 and there was no briefcase. Instead, he brought a beautifully traditional hand-loomed Nepali enveloped budget book. It's a complete visual reset, signaling that this isn't just a copy paste budget, but it's an institutional shakeup wrapped in indigenous heritage. But let's look at what is actually stuffed inside that beautiful envelope. The total outlay is a jaw dropping 2,124.34 billion rupees. For the first time in history, Nepal has crossed the 2 trillion rupees mark. Remember how we told you that Nepal's very first budget in 1952 was just 52.5 million rupees? Well, this is over 40,000 times larger. Now hold on. To understand how absolutely hilarious this number is, we need to go back to February 2026. The National Planning Commission sat in their fancy offices, looked at our empty treasury, and set a hard, legally binding target ceiling of 1890 billion rupees to maintain fiscal discipline. But Wagley looked at that legal ceiling, treated it like a casual suggestion from his ex-girlfriend, and blew right past it by an extra 234 billion rupees. Why even have a resource estimation committee if the finance minister is just going to hallucinate an extra couple hundred billion rupees in the 11th hour because he wanted to buy an AI supercomputer? Our fiscal deficit, the giant crater between what the government makes and what it wants to spend, is now a canyon. To bridge it, the budget relies on 657.29 billion rupees in fresh borrowing. Remember how in our last video we praised the government for never defaulting on its debt? Well, the cost of keeping that spotless record alive is now getting painful. Debt servicing, the money we spend just to pay back old principal and interest, is a staggering 417.89 billion rupees. We are now entering a classic debt Ouroboros where nearly one-fifth of our entire national budget is spent paying back the past rather than building the future. On the tax front, he's trying to win back the middle class. He doubled the personal income tax exemption threshold to 10 lakh rupees and slashed the top tax rate from 39 to 29%. He even abolished excise duties on 360 products. And for the ultimate Jhigu economy win, he introduced an immediate 10% VAT discount if you pay digitally at the register. Goodbye, rupees 26 VAT jump scare on my plate of Momo. But behind your back, he just pulled off the biggest tax heist in modern Nepali history. For nearly 3 decades, Nepal has had an unbreakable rule, a single flat VAT rate. When VAT was first introduced in 1997, it was a flat 10%. In July 2005, they pushed it to a flat 13%. It was a universal law of nature, like a 13% jump scare on a plate of Momo. Well, look at the fine print of the new finance bill. Wagley has introduced subsections 1A and 1B right after subsection 1 of section 7 of the Value Added Tax Act. And with those two tiny paragraphs, he has officially introduced multiple rates of VAT and double taxation for the first time since the system was created. Wagley stood at the podium during his budget speech, confidently declaring that he would study the issue of dual rate VAT system. But his hands were moving under the table. Through the finance bill, he skipped the study entirely and just weaponized multiple rates on your lifestyle. First up, electricity. He announced that if your household consumes more than 50 units of power, you are no longer paying a utility bill. You are now officially subject to value added tax. But it gets even sleazier. Subsection 1B explicitly dictates that a brand new 5% value added tax will now apply directly to ride sharing apps and electricity services. Think about that. If you're sitting at the back of a Patao or in-drive bike in Kathmandu traffic, trying to rush home before the monsoon rain hits, you are now being slapped with a special 5% VAT. So while he's offering you a 10% digital payment discount with his right hand, his left hand is waiting at the billing counter to extract multiple tires of VAT on your light bulbs and your daily commute. And for the civil servants watching, he dropped a 21% total salary increase. But because he loves corporate efficiency, only 10% of that is a flat basic hike. The other 10% is a monthly performance allowance tied directly to evaluation. He's literally trying to tell a guy at the driving license office, process the forms instead of saying the system is down because it rained, and you get the bonus. The minimum wage for lower level office assistants now sits at 40,000 rupees per month, while high ranking secretaries clear over 1 lakh rupees. It's great for morale, but it adds massive mandatory liabilities to a state that Wagle himself admitted is already in deficit even when it sleeps. But don't worry, because Wagle has a plan to outrun the debt. He's confidently set an economic real GDP growth target of 7%. Now let's look at the reality check. Last year, our economy was estimated to crawl at a sleepy 3.85%. The National Statistics Office was out here preaching caution. But Wagle looked at the 3.85% economy and said, hold my Momo, we are going to almost double our speed in 12 months. Projecting a 7% growth rate in Nepal is like confidently writing down you'll go to the gym every single day starting Monday. It sounds beautiful on paper, but the couch is incredibly comfortable. And to keep the crowd happy, he promised to cap consumer inflation at 6%. Now, pause right there and think about this macroeconomic paradox. You are dropping a record breaking 2.12 trillion rupees into the market, pumping massive amounts of borrowed cash into circulation, giving everyone raises and doubling exemptions so people have extra liquidity burning holes in their pockets. Usually, when you dump that much cash into an economy, inflation goes into absolute orbit. And it gets even better. He wants to cap inflation at 6%, but his own budget is the one fueling the fire. Because if you closely look at the new rules, he's expanding the tax net to things that drive the daily cost of living. When you make it more expensive to keep the lights on and more expensive for commuters to get to work, you are basically baking inflation directly into the economy. Transport costs rise, production costs rise, logistic costs rise, and eventually the price of almost everything quietly creeps upward. Wagle is essentially throwing a massive bonfire party in a wooden shed, but promising the neighbors that the smoke will stay strictly below the fence level. And to distract us from the smoke, he's pointing at his tech hub vision. The budget's crown jewel is a brand new sovereign AI compute center designed to transform Nepal into a global tech export hub. It sounds futuristic. It sounds like a sci fi utopia. But let's look at the reality of who's actually left in the country. In the last fiscal year alone, over 785,000 workers left Nepal. Now, to be fair, the vast majority of those people are leaving for low skilled jobs in places like Dubai or Malaysia because the domestic economy is stagnant. But at the same time, our brightest tech minds are packing their bags for IT jobs in Silicon Valley. So you can buy all the supercomputers you want, but building a thriving tech hub actually requires people. If your entry level workforce is leaving out of necessity and your elite coders are living in the United States sending remittance back home, who's going to sit at the desk and run the damn AI? The fundamental challenge here is not infrastructure. It's whether Nepal can convince skilled young people to build their future here instead of somewhere with basic luxuries like functioning public transport and, oh, I don't know, uninterrupted electricity. Is this budget a stroke of absolute economic genius or a beautifully formatted midlife crisis financed by billions in fresh debt? Over the last decade, Nepal has managed to spend only about 64% of its capital budget because of the Asare Bikas curse. If you don't know what Asare Bikas is yet, definitely go back and check out our Nepal Budget 101 video where we break down the whole cycle. If the infrastructure money sits frozen for 11 months again, and if we don't break that cycle, that 7% growth target will shatter, leaving us holding nothing but a massive bill of fresh debt. But we're just getting started, guys. Because the tax changes are so massive, we are filming a series of deep dive videos over the next week, breaking down the absolute minutiae of the new Finance Act. We'll look at custom duties, corporate tax brackets, and exactly how the new green tax will affect your pockets. Hit that subscribe button, turn on notifications, and drop a comment below. Do you think a performance bonus will finally fix the queues at the government office? Stay informed, stay skeptical, and keep paying your taxes. Clearly, the debt service department needs them. Bye.